Hello Internet, this is Noel and thanks for visiting my little corner of YouTube. Now today I'm going to be taking a look at Sony's mid-tier wireless active noise cancelling Bluetooth headphones. These are the Sony Wh-H900n, aka the Heron 2s. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Sony Wh-H900n. These are Bluetooth wireless noise cancelling headphones which sit mid-tier in Sony's lineup. Where Sony's Wh-1000XM3s are aimed at audiophiles and enthusiasts, and those looking for the top-of-the-line noise cancelling, the H900Ns are aimed at everybody else. So the H900, these RRP for $250 in the UK, but they currently retail for between $150 and $170. Now these were loaned to me for tests by my good friend John, so shout out to John, thanks for letting me borrow these, and he paid £150 for these. Now Sony recently announced the replacement for these. That's the Wh-H910, aka the Heron 3. So it's likely there's going to be huge discounts on these in the coming months. So it'll be worth looking out for these in the Black Friday sales. I am certain they're going to go on sale. So I don't have any of the accessories that came in the box, but obviously you get the headphones themselves. There is a carrying pouch, a fabric carrying pouch, a micro USB charging cable, and a 2.5 to 3.5 mil cable for wired operation, which is 1.2 meters long. So let's have a look at the specification then. So they operate over Bluetooth 4.1 and they support a variety of codecs, including AAC, aptX HD, and Sony's own LDAC. And they have 40mm drivers. They have a frequency response of 20 Hz to 20 kHz at a sampling rate of 44.1 kHz. However, they're capable of an increased frequency response of 20 Hz to 40 kHz at a sample rate of 96 kHz when using Sony's own LDAC codec. And they can also be used in a wired configuration in two ways. So you have active, which is with the headphones turned on, and passive with them turned off. And that affects their impedance and sensitivity between those modes. They're listed at 32 ohms impedance and 103 decibels of sensitivity in active operation. And that changes to 16 ohms and 98 decibels sensitivity in passive mode. Sony also lists a separate frequency response of 5 Hz to 40 kHz when being used in active operation. The battery life is very good, with a maximum playback time of 34 hours. That's with noise cancelling off, and they'll do a very, very respectable 28 hours with noise cancelling enabled. Now, a full charge takes around 6 hours, which is quite lengthy. However, you're going to get an hour's worth of use out of a 10-minute charge, which I think is pretty awesome. From my testing, I think you're going to get about a week of these from, average sort of use. If I use them when I'm working, I'm probably not going to use them all day, every day, but for a good few hours each day, they're going to last me about a week. If I was using them much heavier, then I would probably expect to charge them midweek. But, with 28 hours, you do the maths on that, it seems pretty accurate. So onto physical features then. There's very few physical controls on these headphones. All the physical controls and connections are located on the left-hand ear cup. There's nothing at all on the right-hand ear cup. So on the left-hand side, you have an NFC contact pad, and that's so that you can just tap your phone and then pair wirelessly via Bluetooth without needing to go through any configuration. Although having said that, it didn't quite work for me, and I did have to pair manually. Now, that might have just been my phone being weird. I don't know. These had been paired to a different device beforehand, and that had worked. I'm not sure about that. Perhaps it was just my phone. Around the edge of the left ear cup, we have a 3.5mm connector for the wired cable. I think I said it was 2.5mm earlier. It is actually 3.5 to 3.5mm. So you could use a replacement cable potentially. I've not tested that. I don't know if there's any locking mechanism in here because unfortunately I don't have the original cable that came with them. Next up we have the micro USB charge port. After that we have the power button. If you hold that down for 2 seconds, they're going to power on, and you do get an audible notification that they've been powered on. And you also get an audible notification when they've been powered off. Next up, we have the noise cancelling button. It has 3 different modes. So you have noise cancelling on, you have noise cancelling off, and you have ambient sound on. Ambient sound allows a certain amount of external noise or ambient sound to come into the headphones so you can be a bit more aware of your surroundings, which is perfect for when you're walking around and you don't want to get run over by a truck. So pressing this button will cycle through the 3 different modes, and you do also get an audible notification. And then to turn them off, you just hold down the power button for 2 seconds, a flash, and then they turn off. And the right ear cup does actually hold some functionality. It actually has a sort of a touchpad built into it, which allows you to control your music and whatnot. You can actually swipe forwards to go forwards a track, swipe backwards to go backwards a track. And if you hold it, then you'll rewind, and hold it and you'll fast forward. You can swipe up to change your volume up. You do it once, it just goes up in one step. If you hold it, then it will go up in volume until you let go. And the same goes for swiping down. If you swipe down, then you're going to go down in volume. If you tap with 2 fingers, then you're going to play or pause your music. And also you can tap with 2 fingers to answer or end phone calls. And they do have one other feature which is pretty cool. If you hold your hand over and cover the entire trackpad, then that enables Sony's quick attention mode. And what that does is it mutes the audio, it'll mute your music, it'll turn the noise cancelling off, enables ambient sound, so that you could then have a quick conversation with somebody without having to take them off or pause your music or whatever. And I'm sure it probably looks a bit weird, but you can hold your hand over your ear, you can have a conversation with somebody, and you take your hand away, your music starts playing, the noise cancelling comes back on. So it's a fairly cool feature, and you might find that useful if you work in a busy open office. So onto build and comfort. The build is almost entirely plastic, however they feel pretty sturdy, and I think they'll probably be quite durable. The headband adjusters are reinforced with metal, which is good to see. They have a ratchet adjustment method, but there's no visual markings to let you know how far open you have them. The headband padding is nice and deep. I think it's quite soft and supportive. I think it's very, very comfortable. Now these do weigh 290 grams, which is reasonably heavy, but I don't find that causes any excess pressure on the top of my head. This headband padding is pretty good. Ear pads are nice and deep. Padding is nice and soft and spongy. I think they're very, very comfortable. While they're not the largest openings around, they are kind of ear-shaped, which does make them more comfortable than you'd expect. And also, clamping force isn't too high, which for a glasses wearer such as myself is really good to see. And while the ear cups don't fold flat, they do have a certain amount of movement, vertically and horizontally, for a more comfortable fit. So overall, I'm really, really impressed with the build and comfort of these headphones. I find them really, really comfortable. I could probably wear these all day and be happy. So onto sound then. They have a very relaxed sound, would be how I would describe it. Sub bass is elevated few dB over neutral, but it's not huge. Overall bass is just shy of being bloated. There is a bit of a bump in the high bass. It's not too bloated, but it does lack detail. It's very similar in many ways to the 1000XM3s. I think the 1000XM3s are a bit bloated. These are just shy of that, but I mean, if you've heard the 1000XM3s, the sound signature of these isn't that much different. Mid-range is mostly flat, except for a small dip around 800 Hz. And it rises up around 2K, but the treble is incredibly restrained. It's not particularly even on the whole, but it is fairly even till about 8K. But then from about 8K onwards, it gets more and more uneven, and it just drops off. And by 20 kilohertz, it's down minus 5 dB from neutral. So while the bass is elevated, but it's not too elevated, the mid-range is fairly flat, and the treble is fairly flat up to 8 kilohertz. That gives it a fairly balanced sound throughout most of the range, with that slight bass bump makes them sound a little bit more fun. And also with the treble rolling off around 8 kilohertz, they have a fairly dark and relaxed and really quite enjoyable sound signature. And you're never going to be listening to a pair of headphones like these for critical listening, so why not make them sound nice and relaxed and enjoyable? And that they do that really, really well. I ran through a few tracks from alt rock, metal, EDM, hip hop, and I found them to be at home with all of them. So I'd say the sound signature is quite similar to the 1000XM3s, but they're not as detailed as the 1000XM3s, but that doesn't really make them any less enjoyable. Next up then we'll talk about noise cancelling, and actually noise cancelling performance on these is better than adequate. It is still kind of average, middle of the road noise cancelling for a pair of noise cancelling headphones, but I do find them good enough. So it cuts out the majority of the office aircon noise. However, the lowest rumble of the aircon noise, this does struggle with it a bit. And the highest tones, like I have an aircon unit in here, and when that's on, it has a kind of a high-pitched whine along with the low rumble and the chugging sound. And that high-pitched whine, even the 1000 XM3s struggle to cut that part out, and these really can't do it. They do a much better job than Sennheiser's HD 4.50, but they do fall short compared to the 1000 XM3s. That is to be expected after all, because the 1000 XM3s are class leading when it comes to wireless active noise cancelling, so it's not really a fair comparison. But noise cancelling is pretty good on these. I am quite impressed with it. Overall, I find the noise cancelling to be pretty decent. If I didn't already own 1000 XM3s, I'd probably be fairly happy with the noise cancelling performance of these. Of course, if you do more air travel, or you spend more time on public transport, or you work in an open office, perhaps the 1000 XM3s or something like the QC35s would be much more suited to the task. So in summary then, build is very good, comfort is excellent, the feature set is rather decent and doesn't lack much for actual use when compared to its bigger brother, the 1000 XM3s. Sound quality is pretty decent. It has a rather enjoyable sound signature. What it lacks in detail, it makes up for in being quite relaxed and enjoyable. Overall then, for the £150 that were paid for these, I'm really impressed with them, and I think you'd struggle to find a better wireless active noise cancelling headphone for this price. There we are then. I hope you found this interesting and useful. If you did, please give me a like and subscribe. I'm going to have more content like this soon. And until then, thank you so much for watching and have a good one.